Welcome to Motherhood from the Brain, a podcast guiding moms of preteen girls on how to navigate emotional challenges that are not addressed in school. We share real stories, expert advice, and brain-based methods for handling tough moments. Discover insights to create a deeper connection with your preteen and improve your motherhood journey. Let's tackle the uncharted territory of parenting together. Hosted by professional certified coach, Esther Babazi.
Welcome to the Motherhood and the Brain podcast, a podcast where we dive into ways to help us navigate motherhood and family dynamics using brain-based methods. My name is Esther Babazi, and today I am going to talk about struggling to get your preteens to listen to you without resorting to yelling. This is important because many people out there have this challenge or issue in their homes. So before we begin, I want to state a small disclaimer. I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or any other licensed mental health worker. On this podcast, Motherhood and the Brain, I am just sharing what has worked for me in my life, what helped me transform my emotional, physical, and mental well-being. Because just like you, probably listener, I was feeling stuck. I was confused. I thought there was something wrong with me because of the way I felt, because of all the challenges that came or come with motherhood. So let's begin today's podcast episode. It's episode number 12, by the way. So, do you find yourself constantly at odds with your preteen, struggling to get her to listen to you without yelling? And if you have not found it out yet, yelling does not work. It only works short term, it doesn't work long term. But what I'm here to say is you are not alone. You are not alone. This is a common, I don't want to say problem, but this is a common thing that comes up as we raise children. In order for us to understand why that happens, we start by trying to understand what goes on in our preteens' brains. I'm saying trying to understand because we cannot for sure know what other people are thinking. But when we try to understand what they are going through, then we know that our kids have their own thoughts and their own emotions and their own opinions about things. All of us who have like a well-functioning brain have something that is called autonomy or agency. It is like recognizing that your preteen has their own thoughts too, even if they are different from yours. It's like your preteen starts having something to say on almost anything you ask them to do or you say to them. They are not being difficult, or she's not being difficult. It is just her starting to figure out what she likes and she doesn't like. She is just questioning why things are done the way they are and not the other way or in reverse. And when you look at it from a optimistic point of view, it is actually a good thing because it shows that your teen is developing their own opinions and she's learning to think for herself. So instead of you seeing it as a challenge, you can choose to think of it as she is growing into her own person. It is all part of her becoming more independent and learning to find her feet in the world, learning to navigate the world around them. Even though it can seem like she's testing your authority, trust me, this is not about you at all. And this is the biggest problem that we make, the biggest problem that I made, making things mean things about me. And then before we know it, we get defensive. If you grew up in a home or environment where agency or autonomy was not encouraged, it was suppressed, you most likely internalized this as well. Now that you are a mom and your preteen is going through the same phase, you are struggling, you are quashing them, you are suppressing them, and all this happens unconsciously. I don't think we set out to do this, but we just find ourselves doing it because of the way we were brought up. If we do not have awareness around it, we will find ourselves doing the exact things that our parents did, even though we did not like those things. For example, I grew up in an environment where children were seen but not heard. Like no adult was interested in what you had to say. When we said something back, it was considered disrespectful. It was considered testing the adults, questioning what adults saying. It was considered being a wiseacre. I don't even think that is a word. Like being a wiseacre, that is what they called it. When we asked questions or when we didn't do as we were asked, we were considered wiseacres. Nobody wanted smart pants, like all these names. But you take a moment and pause. Do you really, deep down in your heart, do you really want to raise a child who is a pushover? Do you really, really, from deep down in your heart, want to raise a child who does not believe, who does not stand in what they believe in? Just think about it. Is that the child you want to raise that cannot stand in what they believe in? That is a pushover, they just do whatever they are told to do? Is that the child you want to raise? The answer is most likely no. And the best place for them to learn these skills is at home. It is fascinating how our brains are made. We want our kids to grow up and thrive in the world, find their placing in the world and do things. But we will not let them practice those skills at home. At home, we just want them to sit and obey and abide by whatever we say. And then when they grow up and they struggle finding their fitting and they struggle saying whatever they believe in, then we blame them. You see how the brain is funny? That is why we create awareness around what we are doing. What are we doing and what are we doing, whatever it is that we are doing. Another reason why you are struggling to get your child to listen is because, and this is major, her brain is under development. The areas in her brain that are responsible for emotional regulation, feelings, and control are under development. They are not fully developed, they are developing. Sometimes they are on, other times they are off. This is what explains the mood swings. Sometimes that area of the brain is on, and other times it is not functioning. So when you tell your child something, and maybe they emotionally respond to you, this is biology. I like to remind myself that this is biology, this is natural. There is nothing I can do about this, and there is nothing they can do about this. This is biology, pure biology. We just have to be patient. It is beyond their control. Additionally, our preteens are going through physical changes and hormonal changes, which can be overwhelming and frightening. They may feel confused and scared, and this fear can present itself as anger or defensiveness. Preteens also face external pressure from peers and social media. They are bombarded with messages about how they should look, how they should act, what they should wear, what makeup they should put on, what creams they should have, all these things. I remember I had it tough as a preteen, so I can't even imagine what our kids are going through today. It is a lot of pressure on them, and they do not have the vocabulary to verbalize. Is that a word, verbalize? Like to put in words what they are going through. They don't have the vocabulary for that. They don't know how to articulate how they feel in regards to what they think. So sometimes they end up acting out. Sometimes they shut you out. Like when you speak to them, it's like they're not listening. It's because they are in their own little cocoon. trying to figure out all these changes that they are going through. It is a lot for them to handle. And many of them, even adults, many of our preteens do not have coping mechanisms to deal with all these changes that are coming, that are beyond their control. So what they do is they act like they are not listening. Maybe they are not listening because they are in their own cocoon, they are in their own world, trying to find out what this whole growing up thing is about. So as a mother, it's crucial to recognize that your preteen's behavior is not necessarily a reflection of you. It is very easy to internalize her actions and interpret them as a sign of you being a failure as a mother. But when you're doing that, you are missing the point. Your preteen needs support and understanding now more than ever. Let me say that. Even though you're going through some very explosive emotions with your preteen, they need more support, or she needs more support now than ever. So instead of finding yourself reacting defensively or attempting to control her behavior, you could ask your brain about the assumptions it makes. Rather than jumping to conclusions, like I said in my culture, when a child voices their opinion, even now, they still think it is disrespectful. I usually pause and ask myself, is this really true, brain? What other ways can I think about this situation instead of thinking that she's disrespectful? And one of the emotions that have really helped me during this journey is being curious or curiosity. A simple question like, I wonder what she's going through right now. I wonder why she did that. I wonder why she said that. How can I be of help? How can I help her? Immediately when you start asking your brain questions like that, first of all, it will give you answers. Your brain will go to work and find answers. Second of all, you will notice a shift in your posture. You will become, for lack of a better word, softer around the edges. You will not be so defensive or aggressive in your posture. You become softer and you open yourself up because now you want to know what is going on with her. The reason I choose curiosity is because when I start interpreting everything my child says or does as a reflection of my worth as a mom, my protective brain goes into overdrive. My protective brain thinks that, like, I'm not measuring up as a mom. When thoughts like, I'm being a bad mother, if I talk to my child about something and maybe she gives me her opinion, or maybe she loses it or yells at me or whatever kids do, my protective brain is going to make that mean that I am a bad mother. I'm failing my child. What will the teacher think? What will the neighbors think? And it's totally normal for these kinds of thoughts to come up. It's totally normal to once in a while wonder how my child is doing socially. But when these kinds of thoughts start consuming you, your protective brain goes in some form of panic, like it hits a panic button. And before you know it, you are reacting out of that panic by raising your voice or trying to control everything she does, just to reassure yourself that you are not failing her as a mother, to reassure yourself that you are adequate, that you are measuring up to some standards, some made-up standards as a mother. Let me repeat, this is very important. When your child gives you attitude, whatever kind of attitude your child may give you, your protective brain will make things up, like maybe you're a bad mom, or you're failing your child, or what will the neighbors think, or what will the teacher think. And it's normal to worry about how your child is doing socially. It's normal to think about what will the teacher think if my child has, for example, not done their homework the whole week. It is normal to think those things. But it becomes a problem when you let those thoughts consume you. It becomes a challenge when you let your protective brain rule over you with those kinds of thoughts. Your protective brain hits what I like to call a panic button. And before you know it, you are reacting from that panic. When your protective brain is panicking, oh my God, you're failing, you're a failure as a mother, what will the teacher think? If you let those thoughts consume you, if you believe them, if you believe that, okay, my child did not do their homework, I don't know how it is where you live, but where I live, our kids get homework on Monday and they're supposed to turn it in by Friday. So if Friday rolls around and my child has not delivered their homework and my brain is like, what will the teacher think? I'm a failure. I'm failing as a mom. If I believe all those things, then I am going to react from that panic, to react from those thoughts by raising my voice or yelling to try and control her to do the things so I think better thoughts about myself. It is very counterintuitive. It does not make sense, but this is what happens. When we come from panicking, we attempt to control our children. That is when we yell at them because we feel bad about ourselves. We just want to reassure ourselves that we are okay, we are not failing, we are doing our job. This is like our brain's way of protecting us from feeling awful and inadequate. But it does not work. It's just some confused mess that the brain comes up with. It's just some protective mechanism that does not work in the long run. It only works short term. You yell at your child and then you feel awful. And then you are back at feeling inadequate. And then you yell some more. This is how it works. It becomes like this vicious cycle. Meanwhile, as I'm yelling and trying to control my child to do whatever it is I want them to do, their brain, their protective brain and nervous system is getting overloaded. You see how it works? My protective brain is leading me to yell at my child. And when I yell at her, her protective brain and the nervous system, they get overloaded. And before I know what's happening, she's slamming doors in my face. She's yelling at me to back off. She's telling me I need space to calm down. Leave now. Because their brain is not fully developed, it cannot handle a lot of external overload or what scientists call stimuli, external stimuli. So they are asking me to leave. They are slamming doors in my face. They are telling me to go away, leave, because they want to calm down. It is too much now. It is too much sensory overdrive. So they want to calm down and they are asking me to leave. Now I'm thinking, my brain thinks they are being disrespectful. You see where I'm going? Like it becomes this cycle where nobody wins. Now, I am not advocating for children slamming doors or acting out. I'm not saying that. But understanding that when they slam doors, when they ask you to leave, is a sign of their protective brain and nervous system being overwhelmed, can help you respond in a more supportive way. Let me repeat. This is very important. When you raise your voice at your child, when you yell at your child, because you want them to do something or not do something, your protective brain is just playing tricks on you. It thinks that by you yelling, you are reassuring yourself that you are not failing as a mother. This is a way your protective brain protects you from feeling inadequate and awful about yourself, but it works only short term. And meanwhile, as you're yelling and trying to control your child to do whatever it is you want them to do or not do, their protective brain and their nervous system is getting overloaded. And before you know it, they are slamming doors in your face. They are asking you to leave because they feel now it's too much. It's too much. I can't handle this anymore. But because of the way some of us were brought up, we may interpret that as being disrespectful. How can she slam the door in my face? But they are not being disrespectful per se. It is just their way of their body's way of saying, I can't handle this. This is too much. I can't cope. Leave. Too much is going on. Can you leave now? I'm not condoning children slamming doors, no, or acting out or shouting or yelling. I'm not doing any of that. But I just want you to understand that when they are doing these things, these are signs that their brains and the nervous system are overwhelmed. When we have this awareness, then we are able to respond in a more supportive way. They are not setting out to be evil, no. This is just their nervous system and protective brain reaction to whatever is going on around them, to whatever information, to whatever stimuli they are picking on. They are saying, enough now, leave, go. When we are calmer, then we can talk about this. So learning to recognize that it's your protective brain driving those reactions can be a game changer. At least in my life, it has been a game changer. You step back and realize that, hey, I don't have to go in full panic mode every time something goes wrong. I don't have to go in full panic mode every time I ask my child to do something and they don't, or I ask them not to do something and they do it. This is just my protective brain reacting this way. So when you understand where your reactions are coming from, when you understand where your anger is coming from or frustration is coming from, you will start responding with empathy and understanding. I have a son and he's a gamer. If you hear any noise in the background, he's gaming. Sorry about that. So, where was I? I said once you understand where your frustration and overwhelm are coming from, they are coming from your protective brain trying to protect you. It does not mean that you have to obey everything the protective brain comes up with. You just have to learn and step back and say, okay, I see what's going on, brain. You feel scared. You think we are not enough. This is how I speak to myself. I see what's going on, brain. You think because she said A, B, C, I'm not enough, I'm a bad mother. It is okay. It is okay. I'm fine. There is no need to go in panic mode. We are doing okay. We are fine. Once you understand where frustration is coming from, overwhelm, anger, whatever you're feeling is coming from, you will start responding with more empathy and understanding towards yourself and your preteen. Thank you so much for listening today. I apologize there was some noise towards the end because of the gamer. Talk to you again next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Your time means the world to us. If you found this episode valuable, we would be immensely grateful if you could spare a moment to visit Apple Podcasts and share your thoughts through a review. Your feedback plays a vital role in helping fellow moms discover our podcast and enrich their own motherhood experiences. Take care, and bye for now.